We are now in day 2 of round 6 in the Phoenix Festival tournament. Use the links in the description below to go and vote for who you think would win in each match and give your reasoning as to why. Our first match of the day is Cinder Fall versus Yang Xiao Long in the Geyser and Ice biomes. What do you guys think? Do you think that Yang, as of the end of Volume 7, with the training she's had from the Aesops, could win a fight against Cinder Fall without her using her maiden powers? I think that she stands a pretty good chance. Cinder would be fighting with her weapon of Midnight and her semblance of Scorching Caress. Fighting in the Geyser and Ice biomes, that does give her a lot to manipulate with creating heat, as she could turn either the geysers or the ice into steam. She would also have any other dust that she brought with her that would be woven into her clothing, etc., so there would be other things she could manipulate, but fighting with her weapon of Midnight, she could also launch the arrows that are supercharged with her semblance and cause the ground around Yang to explode. But one thing we have to remember, Yang is fighting with her Ember Celica, and she is part of the combo attack Freezer Burn, so she would be able to use the biomes to her advantage as well, creating steam at opportune moments, possibly when Cinder is about to fire those arrows, and make sure they do not hit their mark. But Yang, also fighting with her Ember Celica, being able to launch herself around the battlefield, might be a bit more maneuverable than Cinder is. And the longer that this fight goes on, the more damage Cinder deals against Yang, Yang will have her semblance of Burn to rely on, and be able to boost up her own power, and possibly be able to take out Cinder that way. Now in Volume 7, we did see Cinder fight toe-to-toe with Winter and Penny when she was only using her maiden powers to really conjure the swords, so it would be essentially the equivalent of her fighting with her Midnight, just having the dual blades to fight with. So Cinder is extremely capable, even not factoring in her maiden powers, but Yang was also able to hold her own against the Aesops, though the Aesops were not really in the greatest mental state, but still, this would be a fairly even fight depending on how this broke down. Cinder does have a limited number of arrows, so I think that Yang would end up winning overall, just because of the way she would be able to maneuver around the battlefield, launch herself forward with her Ember Celica, not to mention the remote detonation function that she had added to her weapons as of Volume 7, and her semblance of Burn being the cinch when it comes down to the end, when her aura starts getting reduced. I think that Yang would actually be able to take out Cinder at this point, with Cinder not using her maiden powers. It would be a hard-fought fight, but I think Yang could win this. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below, though, as I could see this going either way. And then we get to the teams matches of the day, with our first match being Team Esprit versus Team Ambit in the Ice and Savannah biomes. Team Esprit consisting of Clover Ebby, Winter Schnee, Penny Polendina, and James Ironwood, and Team Ambit consisting of Adam Tauros, Banesaw, Yuma, and Trifa. And Team Esprit is probably going to win this one without much difficulty, as Team Esprit is stacked with high-ranking members of the Atlas military, and although Team Ambit does have Adam Tauros, who is a pretty heavy powerhouse, Banesaw, Yuma, and Trifa just aren't up to par with Team Esprit and would be taken out fairly easily. Yuma and Penny would both take to the sky, and it's not hard to imagine who would end up winning that matchup. Considering that we don't know what weapons Yuma has, and Penny has her floating array with the lasers and the numerous different blades, Penny would take out Yuma without much difficulty. Trifa wouldn't really be able to restrain anyone that easily, Penny being in the sky, having the blades being able to cut through the threads, Ironwood being able to launch himself around and just fight from a distance, which is a really bad matchup for Trifa, and Banesaw for that matter. His chainsaw blade doesn't really have any ranged functions, but Adam, on the other hand, would be more of a tricky opponent to deal with. If Penny fired off any of her lasers, Adam could absorb that and use his semblance of Moonslice to deal some pretty heavy damage against Team Esprit. Now there is Clover's good luck, good fortune, boosting the entire team, so that would be a bit difficult to keep up with, not to mention Winter Schnee and her summons giving Team Esprit the numbers advantage, Ironwood firing from range, even if Adam is able to absorb Penny's laser blasts, that would be occupying his attention. Ironwood could attack from behind, so no matter which way this breaks down, Team Esprit does beat Team Ambit, but Adam on his own against Team Esprit would still be a bit of an interesting fight to see, given the ranged capabilities of Team Esprit and the amount that Adam would be able to charge up his Moonslice. So it would be interesting to see, but I don't see that Team Ambit would ever be able to beat Team Esprit, at least at this point. And then we move to our last match of the day, which is Team Coffee versus Team Witch in the Lava and Forest biomes. Team Coffee consisting of Coco Adele, Fox Alistair, Velvet Scarlatina, and Yatsuhashi Daichi, and then Team Witch being all of Salem's Inner Circle. Arthur Watts, Tyrion Kalos, Cinder Fall, and Hazel Reinhardt. Now, Cinder won't be using any of her maiden powers, but even without the maiden powers and Tyrion and Hazel fighting alongside her, Team Coffee, although they are skilled, I do not think that they would be able to stand up to that. Both Fox and Velvet are extremely fast fighters, but Tyrion is as well, and him fighting with his multiple points of contact, we've seen him be able to take on both Clover and Crow, not to mention Robin on top of that for a short time. He would be able to take on both Fox and Velvet without too much difficulty. Velvet does have her versatility with her Anisadora, being able to create hard light dust copies and make numerous weapons on the battlefield, use all of the different fighting styles she has stored in her photographic memory, and Fox would never lose sight of any of his opponents thanks to his telepathy, but Tyrion would be able to keep pace with all of them. He has ranged functionality with the Queen's servants, and his ferocity in battle would be able to overwhelm them. Not to mention, if he decided to go up against either Koko or Yatsuhashi, their weakness is faster opponents, as was clearly demonstrated when they fought against Mercury, and were pretty much outmatched just by Mercury's speed alone. Tyrion would be able to outmatch them, and Hazel could take on either of them as well. I do think that Yatsuhashi would be able to deal some pretty heavy damage against Hazel if he is able to get his semblance off of memory wiping and disorient Hazel for a brief moment during battle, but that would only be if Yatsuhashi and Hazel matched up 1v1. With the rest of Team Witch there, preventing Yatsuhashi from focusing on any opponent, the memory wiping probably wouldn't be too much of a factor. Koko would be able to fire off her Gianduja and use her semblance of hype from a distance to be able to deal some pretty heavy damage against opponents, but Tyrion would be able to dodge out of the way, Cinder likely would as well, Watts would be able to manipulate the biomes and give them a better advantage. Cinder could use her semblance of Scorching Caress to turn the fire dust in the lava biome, make it unstable, cause it to explode, or if Watts is able to get the desert biome up, she could have unlimited ammunition with glass, so I think Team Witch would be able to beat Team Coffee without that much difficulty. Team Coffee, I would love to see more of them on screen, and I would honestly love to see this fight play out, but I think Team Witch does win this one overall. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, though, on each of the fights that we went over today. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with the Phoenix Festival Tournament and the other videos on this channel. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, also join our Discord server linked in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.